Most men want more clarity, more respect, more control over their lives, but few know how to get it. Welcome to the Bro Coach Podcast with Dennis Procopio, the founder of Man Up Life Coaching and the man behind thousands of transformed lives. Not red pill, not therapy, just the evolved man's blueprint for strength, presence, and purpose. Welcome to another episode of the Bro Coach Podcast. I am Andrew Bontz. I'm here with Dennis Procopio. We are on episode number 10. So happy to be here with you, men. Thank you, Dennis, for being here, man.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Let's go.
Yeah. So we talked a lot to the previous 9 episodes about some pretty deep stuff, and went all over the sides of, a lot of talking about silence. And the last 2 episodes, we talked about kind of the 10 man codes. I want to go a little bit more primal today and talk about getting our men laid more. And I have there's a lot of guys out there that have been in marriages for a bit and they're not getting the action that they want to see. So I want to kind of hear your perspective as you're talking through men that, or they're in a relationship that they're not necessarily getting their needs met and they need to figure this stuff out. So what kind of where should this conversation start with kind of that tee off?
I guess I'd start with understanding the priority of sex in a physical and emotional relationship. I think that's a good place to start. I coach guys who one of the things that they love about dating in the beginning is how good the sex is. And the women, one of the things they love is how awesome the flirting is and how nicely dressed he is and how good he smells and how charming he is. And he interacts really nicely with all of her friends and family. And in both cases, I think that when guys hit definitely by the 2-year mark, there is a sort of law of diminishing returns where the guy's like, hey, I don't feel like we're having as much sex as we used to. And also, you were all like hot and junk, and now you're just kind of like, hair in a scrunchie and freaking pajamas. And she's like, okay, well, if we're going to be criticizing, I kind of feel like you were this really nice, attentive, present, talkative guy. And now you want to spend more time doing pretty much anything other than talking to me or doing any romantic stuff. And that's where in relationships, I see a big problem because he feels validated when there's sex and she feels validated when there's a relationship, which for her means like communication and sharing and stuff. So sex is something that's nice to have in a relationship, and I think you should try to have it. But I think that prioritizing it over communication is a very typical fail for men.
So most of the men listening to this have been in a relationship for a bit, right? What are what maybe some of the symptoms that, because I think like most men would say like, hey, I'm a good communicator, right? Like I think that maybe there's some sort of disconnect there. Where do you think the disconnect from the maybe some signals from the man side of things? I'm like, doesn't feel like he's showing up on the emotional connection or the communication side of things. Like what are some signals that he's seeing right now?
Signals that he's seeing that she's just to make sure I understand the question here. Signals that he's seeing from her that she's less than happy.
Yeah, maybe it is like communication is the issue, right? Like she doesn't feel like, and take it to the day in the life of a dude where he's like, the dude's, it's been 4 weeks since I got laid, and the woman's like, I don't, she's running into her sweatpants, come come post work, right? To her, the divide's pretty far, right? So, um,
I see. Okay, I'm going to answer your question. Um, the sign, the sign that she's not romantically fulfilled is that she's not smiling, she's not touching you as much, she's um tense, she's stressed, she's complaining. I mean, they're not really invisible signs. If you feel like you're living with an angry hag instead of a hot girlfriend, then there's your sign. You know, like it's not a mystery. Uh, but there's, there are different versions of relationships. If you're a guy who's in a relationship that's a relatively healthy relationship, you have to ask questions. Do they have kids?
yeah,
You know,
mostly.
because oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
As I say, most of the guys listen to this, they had kids. Yeah.
A kid or kids is going to mean less time. Let's create a fictitious scenario. You have a woman who does the majority of the kid stuff. I don't know what that is. Packs lunches, um, lunches, is on top of the kids, health insurance and healthcare and dental and doctor's appointments and all of that, right? You have a guy who has a job, works. Maybe she has a job too. Maybe she doesn't. She has a certain number of friends that she's trying to stay in touch with, either through socials or other, like in face to face, in person. Him, same, probably fewer. And somewhere along the way, she goes to bed. He doesn't come with. He's on the couch doom scrolling or playing Call of Duty or some mindless activity because he's waiting for everybody else to go to bed so that he can have a little me time and just kind of decompress. And a day turns into a week, and a week turns into a month. And before you know it, they're like, how much 3 months and we haven't had sex? Well, when he tries to make advances, it's usually like grabbing a boob or just putting his hand, between her legs or something, grabbing her butt. Like it's very, since you said kind of crude. I mean, I'll just take it there. It's just like, hey, Oka Boka. And she's not in a healthy relationship. She's probably not interested in being sexually objectified if there isn't some feeling of romance there. That's why historically for men, porn is a picture, and women, it's an entire romance. And so the signs that she's probably not going to be available for sexual advances include a lot of complaining, a lot of negative body language, and a lot of physical detachment and cold. The signs that um, she's interested, on the other hand, are warmth, smiling, eye contact, flirting, what you'd expect on a date. You can't have, and you really can't expect to have one without the other.
So as you're coaching guys, like where, uh, what, where do you take when they're saying, this kind of this narrative, like how we've been married for a bit, that I get what I want. She, I listen to her and we talk, like how, as you go into like solution mode and guide guys through a scenario like this. I mean, I hear what you're saying. There's a big difference between like what men think of as foreplay and what women think is a foreplay, right? And
Mm.
guys don't understand the romance novels, and most women don't understand pornography, right? Like why do you guys look at that stuff? It's kind of, smut, it's dirty,
Mm.
that kind of stuff. So as you're coaching guys on your day to day, like how do you take them from where they're at to where they want to be?
Um, so there are different types of. So let's say a guy says, "Hey, I'm having trouble in the getting laid department." Okay. So if they're in a relationship, like you say, where our target demographic is someone who is, um, I mean, and just to be fair, we do have a target demographic, but there's the guy who's not in a relationship, and so for that guy, it's hey, you need to make some friends and get out there. But for and that's a whole different conversation. And in fact, on an Instagram post recently, there was some girl on there who's like super pretty. Um, but she had this like short haircut that was like dyed green or whatever. And she's like, okay, I have a question. Like, why are guys like not like showing me any love? Is it the hair? Am I like giving off lesbian vibes? Is that the thing? And a whole bunch of dudes were like, yeah, with that haircut and the green like that, just your whole thing, you're 100% giving off lesbian vibe. There's nothing about you that suggests that you're approachable. And so I made a comment because I'm always commenting as, man up life coaching. So I made a comment saying, hey, in this day and age, men are afraid to approach. Sorry, but you did that to yourselves. The hashtag Me Too movement just created a boundary, and men respect boundaries. So, or at least we try to. You made it clear. Don't talk to you, don't touch you, don't look at you, don't nothing. So that's what we're doing. Uh, but that said, if you're interested in a guy, here's something you could do. Go up to him, say, hey, you look cute and interesting. My name is such and such. Here's my number. Would you like to get a coffee and discuss something interesting sometime? Wink, wink. And that's it. And I didn't say wink, wink. I think I actually used the biting the lip emoji. Highly effective gesture. And all the guys were like, dude, you just solved all this woman's problems. Why doesn't she do this? And yeah, good question. Why doesn't she? So if you're in a relationship, well, now what happens is you've gotten through the dating period. You had a whole bunch of talking together. We really bonded and we connected, and the sex is great. Yeah. But now it's a couple of years later and it's like, hey, want to hump? And that's not really what you got to do. So if the guy says to me, "Hey, dude, man, I'm like in a relationship where I feel like we're just not having sex the way we should be," like, okay, well, are you trying? Are you making moves? That's number one. Are you trying? Well, no, but I kind of feel like she should show some interest in me. You're a dude. Sorry, but I think the onus is always going to be on you to be like, hey, what's happening? Um, two, If you are trying and she's rejecting you, that's a conversation. What else would you do? Try harder? That's a different thing. That gets you. That's not it. So hey, I'm just curious. I don't want to make you feel bad or anything, but I feel like the past couple of times I've tried to kind of get something started, I feel like you shut me down a little bit. Where's that conversation going to go? I just haven't been feeling into it lately. Uh, okay. Um, so since we're monogamous and stuff, like I do have this desire to kind of connect with you at that level. And if you're not available in that way, then it's kind of, I don't know, I feel a little alone. If you're just open like that, she'll tell you either I haven't been feeling pretty, I haven't been feeling attractive, or I have some resentment in our relationship that's kind of keeping me from wanting to go there with you. Or I don't know. I mean, I'm available anytime. I just kind of feel like, just we never really have the time. So, depending upon which of those cases it is, there's a different strategy that you have to implement for either one. But to just shore it up, it always starts with communication.
Which one do you see is most common of those four ors was- that you talked about?
Dude, if I'm going to keep it real, like if I'm going to sit here and play like, I'm talking to, you, but I'm really like thinking of like, with the guys listening. That's different than if I just say, you want me to really answer your question, right? So I'll just answer your question. Um, I get a significant number of dudes, more than you would think, who have performance anxiety.
Hmm.
They do. Whether it's that they think their dick is small or they're worried about keeping it up, or they're coming into an age where they feel like they need testosterone or they need something to kind of help. There's that conversation. So sometimes you'll have a guy who's having performance anxiety and he's in his head. And so a conversation ensues. I see that more than you'd think.
Hmm.
So that's one. But for the guys who are like, nah, everything's working. I'm just trying to get it and I'm not getting it. Um, the reason is usually that she feels like she wants to be dated as a it's not just assumed, yeah, roll me in flour and aim for the wet spot, you know what I mean? Like you kind of gotta, you gotta warm things up here, and for guys, that's like there's this sense of kind of entitlement that really bugs women, which is, hey, we're married, so you should just spread your legs and like let me get my hump on anytime I want. And that's super gross to women. Most women, some women, there are some women out there that are like, oh my God, I wish he'd, just rip my legs open and screw me. That's a different thing. But for the majority, I mean, that's the thing too. But for the majority of the guys, I would say, since you asked, the biggest thing is guys saying, I feel like our sex isn't there. And women say, like, I started women saying, I feel like the romance isn't there. That's the number one thing, dude. That's it.
And so when these guys, so I think number one, there's three different pathways here. Like number one, first scenario where it's like performance anxiety or some sort of inability, whether it be from physically or mentally to do it, right? I'd rather stay away from that one. I'm more curious on the side of things where the second scenario you talked about, where the guys that are kind of forgot how to date or stopped dating or got lazy dating. Like obviously the spark kind of wears off, right? A little bit where it's like, maybe she's put on a couple pounds. Maybe you've put on a couple pounds, or you're just fucking tired from having one, two, three children running around. And it takes a lot more effort to, you know, bump uglies. I thought when there's a bunch of kids running around compared to when there weren't, right? So it just becomes you have to be a little bit more strategic, you know. Uh, and if she's more, usually if people are tired, especially women, you have to maybe take a couple extra more steps than you used to, right? So as in that scenario, how do you walk guys through that problem? Maybe if they're in the first few months of coaching session and you're kind of giving them some homework, what does that conversation look like?
Hey man, stop spinning your wheels. If you're serious about leveling up your career, your relationships, and your mindset, it's time to man up. At Man Up Life Coaching, we cut the excuses and build discipline, confidence, and purpose. Book your free strategy session now at manuplifecoaching.com/application. Don't fill it out if you're not ready to grind, but if you are, this call could change your life. Man Up Life Coaching, elite life coaching for men by men.
Um, First of all, I think that as a dude, I said to a guy as recently as yesterday, and I'm talking about like a 20 something guy. Um, I said, if you're not having sex at least once a week, like something's off. That's just as a rule of thumb, if you're not having sex like once a week, something's off. Once every 2 weeks, I mean, that's still okay, but you're kind of now you're in the danger zone there. And if it's more than that, something's just off. Uh, as a dude, you have a responsibility to handle your business. So you need to try to find a way to make it happen. So if the ball's getting dropped on your side, you need to do something about it, because if you're in a sexless relationship or a relationship where it's really starting to slow down, you need to handle it, right? How do you do that? One, tell your guy, look, dude, figure out what you need to do to handle your business. And if you can't, then we need to talk about why. But in theory, if you're with a woman, she's got you have a healthy physical relationship, she's got a need. You need to take care of your business. Like, just real talk. You've got to be able to, you know, serve it up. If you're physically able to serve it up, uh, but you're not doing it, then you need to check in with her and ask her, um, what's going wrong here? Why are we not connecting? I'm physically capable, and we're just not, right? If it's a thing like you said, like, oh, she's gaining weight or whatever, okay, so what? Is it a her problem or a you problem? Are you in your head about the fact that she's gaining weight? One of two things need to happen. If it's so off-putting for you that you need to say something, hey, you have hit a weight that's making it challenging for me to, kind of get my groove on here. I'm in my head about, how big you're getting or whatever. That's not a freaking conversation. That's just not like, what dude is going to go to his wife and say, hey, I really want to screw you, but I can't because you're too fat. That's not, that's just not, you don't do that. Now, what's funny is I have a client whose wife told him, hey, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I'm getting kind of unattracted to you because you've been eating a lot of food. And when I met you, you were like really like in good shape and you're kind of letting yourself go. And he was like, Fran, you're right. And he fixed it. See, a dude will do that, but you don't do that with a woman.
Right.
with a woman, you love her and make her feel pretty, and she'll respond to that. So you gotta you gotta be her friend first, man. I don't know how else to say this. You gotta be her friend first. You gotta love her, and you've got to find a way to create hot, steamy, intimate moments with her. And if that means you psyching yourself into being with her when she's less than a freaking, you know, 10 by LA standards or whatever, well, then that's where you need to maybe get away from the objectification and tune in more to feeling of being again. That's it. Sorry, that's not super like, yeah, you just take your cock and jam it in there. Like, but that's not how relationships go, dude. It's not. At the end of the day, it really is about love, trust, and intimacy. I'm sorry, but that's the man up answer.
So I think that one of the things that are in conversations with you over the last couple of years is that not a lot of men are taught how to build emotional connection, right? Where, maybe they're a plumber, or maybe they're, a carpenter or whatever. Or, just kind of like, I don't know, I build shit, make the money, and I come home, I'm tired. I don't really want to talk much, right?
Rose.
Like, yeah, it kind of comes to the book that you have a lot of the guys,
The Mars Venus?
most of the guys read.
Yeah.
So I think, for the men that haven't read that book, I think it'd be helpful to close that gap where it's like, I hear what you're saying. Like, yeah, okay, you need to connect and to build that romantic connection, and they have the perception of like, I'm doing, like, I talk to her, she talks, I listen, I nod my head, and, I go back on my phone later, and, I asked her how her day was going, and she said good. And I was like, great. And you know what? I'll go watch the football game now because I asked her how her day went, right? Like, I emotionally connected, right? Which is not how you do it.
Right.
But yeah, so I think that's one thing that, when I first started as a client of reading through that book, especially when I was in a relationship, or there's some moments, a lot of moments in that book that resonated with me. So
Yeah. So I first read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, like in the late 80s, early 90s or something. And I mean, it's kind of been around for a minute. In this day and age, it's easy to kind of take a shot at the book because it's aged. Coming into 2026, and some of the ideas that were made sense for the time can seem a little whatever. You could say that they're a little dated. Let's just put it that way, right? Uh, that having been said, I still use the book because it points to a lot of things that I think are really important about foundational, like, men women relationships. One is men historically like to avoid substantive conversation when we're dealing with an emotion, go off and do something stupid. Um, some solve a crossword puzzle, doom scroll, y- go tinker with the car, paint the broadside of a barn, anything that allows us to come to terms with whatever's percolating on a back burner and go like, why am I, what's my deal? Why am I, what's happening? I don't feel happy. Like, am I angry? Am I scared? Like, what's happening here? And when you finally wrap your head around it and you go, oh, okay, it's this. All right, well, I got a solution for that. That's not so bad. all right. And then you feel like a good boy. And then you go in there, you're like, hey, hello, I'm here. I'm back. I went and processed my emotion or whatever the hell it was. And now I feel better. And that's where the woman is like, yeah, too little, too late. You abandoned me when I needed to communicate. Why don't you ever talk to me in the moment? Right. And so Marsmina says that what he does is he removes himself and he goes and he has cave time until he solves this problem. What women do, on the contrary, is they don't want to solve the problem until they feel better. And feeling better means talking about the problem, which was completely does not make sense to men. Just doesn't make sense to men. I want to talk about my problem. All right, what's the problem? It's this. Okay, well, here's how you fix it. I didn't ask you for a solution. I just said I wanted to talk to you about the problem. What is the point of talking about the problem if you're not going to solve it? Why do you always do this? Why can't you just listen? I am listening. I could repeat everything you just said. I've been asking you to be able to parrot everything that I just said. I was saying, can you just listen? Now I'm really mad. Okay, well, why are you getting mad at me? I've been sitting here for 2 hours talking to you about a problem you could have fixed in the first 5 minutes of complaining about it. Right? I mean, that's the class. It's so stupid. But we keep going through a version of this conversation over and over and over again. So the smart guy is the guy who figures out that what she wants to do is literally talk. That's it. And he's like, so I'm supposed to sit there and listen to her about her feelings that her freaking lawnmower isn't working instead of just fixing the lawnmower. Yes, that's what you're supposed to do. Well, that's stupid. Okay, then go get a freaking boyfriend instead of a girlfriend because that's how men and women work. Now, somewhere there's a woman out there who's like, I find this to be sexist and binary and heteronormative. You know, my wife is the pussy in my relationship, and I'm the one who's like, just sack up, you little, whatever. Yeah, that's true. There are women who have an impetus toward being problem solvers, and there are guys who have a tendency to be worriers and want to talk through their feelings. But as a rule, if you ask a woman what's wrong, she'll say nothing. If you ask her again, she'll say it's really nothing I really want to talk about. If you ask her a third time, she'll say, well, there was this one thing. And then the next thing you know, she's off to the races. And your job is to just listen, to actually listen. Actually listen. What does listen mean? It means hear the sounds. Hear those sounds and don't interrupt. And then when she's done, to hopefully be able to say, well, that sounds difficult. Or I'm sure that that's frustrating for you or whatever. And to offer something that basically says, I understand your frustration or your feeling. I'm here with you. I am present. I am a witness to your feelings. That's it. And then she'll say, thank you for listening. And you'll say, no worries. And she'll say, do you want to watch a movie? And then you say, yeah. And then you can snuggle. And then next thing you know, now you start canoodling a little bit and say, hey, do you want to take this to the bedroom? And if there's any wine around, that helps. But I mean, if we're being completely honest, like there's a reason there's a reason the wine exists for a reason. You can get a drink or three in her, and it's a little bit easier. I'm not trying to take this in a Bill Cosby direction. I'm just saying, it's the great social lubricant for a reason. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the things that it just, I keep thinking of that YouTube video or like the nail in the head video.
Oh, yeah. It's not about the nail. It's not about the nail. Absolutely great video.
We'll link it in the description. It's one of those ones where you see it. You're like, exactly. Like, if you just, my head hurts, but I can't put my finger on it. And what if we just pulled the nail out? And
Yeah.
Whether nail, she's like, not about the nail. The whole
Yeah. Yeah.
is hilarious. We'll add it in the notes for sure. But so what are some? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's it. That's a classic example. A chick is sitting there saying, I can't understand why my head is achy and I'm getting all these snags on my sweaters or whatever. And there's a dude sitting there like looking at his fingernails, looking at the wall, going, so I've learned from experience I'm not supposed to say, you have a nail in your head. Right. And then he finally goes, I know we keep fighting about this, but if you just took that nail out, she's like, no, about the nail. Yeah. And he's like, I think it is. you know. And yeah, it's frustrating because men are problem solvers. I want to solve your problem. Men want to solve problems and then talk about how they felt. Women want to talk about how they feel as a prerequisite to solving problem. Are there exceptions to the rule? Yes. Is it common enough that it warrant, considering seriously that there might be a protocol that you can run in a situation where she is feeling unheard? Yes. What's the protocol? Shut up and listen. And don't offer unsolicited advice. And when you talk, make it about what you feel rather than what you think. If you're a freaking robot or autistic or something and don't feel, well, that's problematic and we'll work on it. But in the meantime, at least do what ChatGPT does and freaking fake it. Because better to fake it and pretend to be sentient than to just say, yeah, I'm not, I don't, yeah, the kitten died. Yeah, that's hard. Whatever. I don't care. Yeah.
So what are some other common threads that you see coming out of that book, and how do you weave them into your coaching in the relationship realm?
One of the big ones is that, tomorrow's my birthday. Okay. So, I hit double nickels tomorrow. We are going out to dinner, but because Saturday's our date night, comically, I'm taking us to dinner and paying for it. So it's not exactly a birthday dinner, but anyway, so I was downstairs earlier today and she said, hey, just to let you know, I'm making you ribs. I was like, oh, well, that's nice. She's like, yeah, as I figured since we were going out tomorrow, I'd make you ribs. I know you like ribs. I was like, that's really nice. So for me, the fact that she made me ribs is like a 30 to 50 point gesture. I'm going to go to pick that rib up and the meat's going to drop off the bone. And I'm going to look at her with like, I love you eyes and just be like, you're just the best person ever. And that's going to resonate with me for like the next couple of weeks to a month. So the next time she's does something annoying, I'll be like, well, she did make those ribs. By contrast, with women, it's you get 1 point for anything you do, no matter how small or how grandiose. So that means that if you leave her a little love note, you get a point for that. If you send her a text and say, morning, beautiful, you get a note for that. If you see her dishes in the sink, can you wash them? You get a note for that. If you notice that the laundry, or a point for that. If you see a load of laundry and it's kid laundry and you normally don't mess with the kid laundry, you let her do that. But this time, for no good reason, you take it all out and you lay it out on the bed and you fold it all and put it nicely away in the drawers. You get a point for that. If you fly her to Hawaii and you spend a week there and you pay a special local tour guide to show you the spots nobody else knows about, you take a helicopter to the place where they actually filmed Jurassic Park. You go somewhere where you can actually swim naked in the crystal blue waters of Kauai or whatever. When you get home, the following day, she's going to be frustrated because of something. And you're going to think, I just took you to Hawaii. Like, seriously, what the hell? And sorry, Charlie, you only got 1 point for that. What does that tell you? It tells you stop trying to be grandiose with your gestures and imagining that flowers and candy or watching The Bachelor with her or whatever buys you any time. It doesn't. It's 1 point. So frequency of gestures is critical. Pause for emphasis. So, 1, what should you do? You should give her opportunities to talk. 2, what should you do? When she talks, you should seem to care. Extra credit if you actually do care, but it's kind of like her pretending to like giving blowjobs. You don't really care. Like if she can convince you that she's into it, that's good enough. It's like porn. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh dad, yeah, daddy, yeah. And you're like, okay, I guess this will work. She's the same way. You're like, oh, that sounds hard. And she's like, it is. Yeah, that's a bummer. You must have been really angry at those girls at your job. I really was. She's not going to delve and be like, are you just saying that? It's enough. That's all she wants. She just wants you to seem to give a shit. Also, gestures of appreciation. Repeat them regularly. Good morning, I love you. Good afternoon, I love you. Good evening, I love you. Hey, I washed your dishes. Hey, I want to talk. Well, hey, do you want to watch some stupid chick flick that I never in a million years want to watch and cuddle and, eat some ice cream together? I know I shouldn't, but whatever. It's just crazy. I'm just living on the edge. Hey, you know what? Today's a work day. What do you say we just take off and go grab brunch together at that little cafe that we both like, whatever. It's regular gestures. The only other thing I can think from that book besides that's really a good takeaway, besides the fact that men isolate and women need to talk and frequency of gestures, it's the understanding that men have a tendency to want to leave things the way they are and women have a tendency to always want to change things. And it drives men nuts. It's like a dog. And she just keeps rearranging the furniture. And it's like, damn it. Like every time I get used to where everything is, you want to do this. Fun fact, deal with it. She likes change. Pattern interruption. We started with sex, right? Your sex life is boring. Try introducing pattern interruption. Do something different this weekend. Take a trip. Go to a different state. Stay in an Airbnb. Get a sitter for the kids. Wear a different clothes. Start wearing button-down shirts. If you wear button-down shirts, start wearing t-shirts or sweaters. Change your cologne. Do something different to make her feel like, oh, what is this? Women love novelty. And more than anything else, just in case you missed it the first time, Cyndi Lauper expressed this very important sentiment. Girls, they want to have fun. That's all you really want. So be fun. Very sexy. Very sexy. You're a fun guy, very sexy. What does fun look like? Not a dick. Unless you're a fun dick. That's another episode. What else you got? What else you want?
Well, I mean, I think we covered a lot along the lines that, as the guys that are, maybe they hit a wall when it comes to the amount of sex they're getting, right? I don't beat that one pretty good. Did we miss anything? Like, if I'm a guy listening to this, is there anything that they're asking or saying like, hey, but you left something out? Like, is there anything that you could think of that is like we didn't cover in this episode that we should?
This sounds like a weird one, but and I'm not going to dwell on it, but I'm just going to put it out there. Um, there is a difference between good sex and bad sex by, female standards. And I think a big part of the reason a lot of women end up in relationships where they don't want to have sex is the sex is kind of whack. And that's because he's not really um, educated on how to be a good lover for her. And I don't want to make this weird, right? And start getting like too like, right? Graphic and stuff. But uh, it's a good idea to talk to your wife, like, or your girlfriend or whatever, your long-term partner, and to be willing to get a bad report card on how good of a lover you are. One of the things I always did, I mean, I'm in a relationship, a long-term relationship, and we have a healthy, we have intimacy. And at 55, that's pretty good. Um, and when I was younger, even though I was an attractive little guy and then all my parts worked and I was ending up with some pretty girls and they were seemed to be super into it or whatever, I would still always say, like, hey, I want you to be honest with me. Like, what's working and what isn't? And they're like, oh no, you're the best. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, shut up. Really, what's working? Like, no, everything. I just like you. I get it. You like me. I like you too. But being honest, like, if I could improve in an area, where would it be? And they'll say something like, okay, well, you like, because like, not like if you're on top and, I have long hair, like, be careful not to like put your like hands or elbows or something on my hair. Is it like taps my head and it kind of, oh, or there's this thing you do where you put your hands on the side of my head and you're saying something really sweet, I'm sure, but I don't know what it is because you're actually kind of covering my ears. And I always find that sort of distracting. So, like, and you're like, oh, okay. Or, hey, when you go down on me, I think you have this like one thing that you always do, but like, I, I'd like it if we could kind of like change that up. And I'd be like, okay, well, like, can you show me? Oh my God, I don't want to. Well, nah, come on. And it's the intimacy of communicating about some of those things in sex that can be uncomfortable that makes it like watch a chick flick sometime. It's like the awkwardness in sex is part of what makes it real and part of what makes it intimate. And guys are such performers that they're always looking to be like, oh yeah, I'm doing the thing to you. Yeah, you have a need to feel the thunder. Yeah, And it's like, and she's like, you're right. Now I have to play along with this dumb shit. Like, it feels nice, but you're not rocking my world as hard as I think you imagine. So it's like they really want you to be present with them. I mean, if you can't laugh while you're having sex, you're doing it wrong. I just, you're laughing at you, but that's a little different. There, you, yeah. But do you understand what I'm saying? Communication is critical.
Yeah, so glad you brought this up because I think that it's one of those things where there's so much ego attached to sex, right? To where that's why women fake it, because they fake it for you. They
Right.
fake it because they think if they don't fake it, they're going to hurt your feelings, right?
Oh yeah.
So having that communication and those moments of like, because most guys, they learn, usually when they're younger, but maybe, if maybe you're out of a relationship and you're getting back into one and previous partner, women are built different, right? Like one likes one like thing different than the others do. So, and having that open communication of like speed and level of touch and how hard and how fast and how soft and, you know, all of those different things, asking for feedback and maybe even bringing a toy into the bedroom and allowing that to be some assistance and, releasing your ego there, like all of those different elements that I think there's a lot of guys out there that just maybe have too big of an ego to have that conversation, but maybe that's the reason why you're not having more of the sex that you actually want to be having. And who knows? Maybe all of a sudden it becomes more enjoyable, more fun, and you crack the oyster, crack her open. All of a sudden you're like, whoa, what did I unlock?
Right. I was just gonna say, careful what you wish for. But right. I mean, it's a slippery slope. And and it's funny because there are, I imagine like it's God, sex is so weird, right? Because on one hand, you got somebody who's like, well, Jesus says or whatever. It's like, all right, there's also a whole Old Testament full of begats. Like that begatting happens somehow, be fruitful and multiply. So it's like, Song of Solomon is like, for some pretty spicy stuff. So, like, I think for the people who are super like uncomfortable with talking about sex with their partner, what happens is that they then have this real, like, sort of bizarre relationship with porn where they're expressing themselves, their desires through their, porn habit, and they're not showing that same side of themselves healthfully to their partner. There's a way to have both, but you just have to be willing to be open and honest and say, you know, hey, firstly and foremostly, I love you and I just want to be with you and being with you feels good. But after that, like, what's your jam? Like, real talk. What are you into? Like, can we just be friends here and talk about it? And when you can get your partner to talk to you the way she would talk to a girlfriend, like, I know this sounds weird, but I kind of like it if she would do this, but I don't know how to say it. If you can get her to have enough trust and enough, like, just a comfort level to be able to talk to you about that stuff, it's literally that closeness that's going to make it feel different. And you might be surprised as a guy to discover that you're responding differently to her because you are feeling her genuine interest, presence, and arousal. So if you're a dude who's not getting any and you want to get some, uh, you know, like I don't need it all, I just want some. Uh yes. Uh so can I have some? Well, the way to get some is to discuss with your partner, hey, look, I don't want to make it weird, but I love you. I feel like we could be having more physical together. And also make sure before you have that conversation that you're checking all the romantic boxes, that you're doing the things. You are being regular with her in your expressions of love. You are being a good listener. You're not being disrespectful to her. You're not being a dick to her because that's a turnoff. You're not taking her for granted. You're not mansplaining everything to her like she's a fucking child. You're addressing her as a human and making sure that she feels happy and safe and empowered and all of those things, and that she feels like an equal partner in the relationship. Those are kind of prerequisites. And if that's not there, then get it out of your head that you haven't just some obligation to be a receptacle for your, you know, sexual energy. But if those things are there and it's still not happening, then discuss it and be willing to take chances that reintroduce intimacy. That's it right there. Feel me?
Yeah, man.
Does that hit?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of bases today, and there's certainly some more peels we can go off the onion, but I feel like it's a good time to round off the episode and close it out. So any closing comments to send the guys, to their holidays, and hopefully getting lucky on the new year or the
Have some holly jolly hopping. Happy Humpity Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Got you feel me? No, I mean, listen, so I guess I guess we're just silly here. It's the last session of the year, I believe. And yeah, if you're not having the intimacy that you would like to have, maybe a New Year's resolution for you is I'm going to prove the way I show up, and that will be maybe a way to get some more clean the slate, get rid of some resentment, create room for loving and for intimacy. And that will invariably lead to some of the other stuff that you probably are like champing at the bit to see happen in the bedroom. As far as the year itself goes, listen, it's been a crazy year. 2025 has been something different. If you made it this far, congratulations. Not everybody did. This has been a rough one. I'm Dennis Procopio. I'm the bro coach. I've been saving lives out here. So if your biggest problem is that you're not getting as much poon as you would like, let me tell you, there's some guys who didn't make it to December. So let's just put everything in perspective. Appreciate you for listening. If you want to follow us for more tips and tricks, you know where to find us. But otherwise, happy holidays, happy new year, and we'll see you on the other side.